Look at them right now. It's late August. The summer sun is fading, school is looming just around the corner, and your teenager is lying on their bed, staring blankly at the ceiling. You walk past their room, you see that heavy, suffocating cloud hovering over them, and your heart sinks a little. You want to reach out. You want to ask what's wrong, offer advice, or give them a speech about how bright their future is. But the moment you open your mouth, you get a shrug, a muttered response, or a door closed in your face. It is exhausting, isn't it? As parents juggling demanding jobs, endless chores, and our own stress, watching our kids feel completely lost, anxious, or paralyzed by the thought of what comes next hurts deeply. You can't force a breakthrough with a lecture. Teenagers have an incredible innate radar for detecting lectures, and the second they sense one coming, their defensive shields instantly deploy. But sometimes, when direct words fail us, a story told at the right moment can start the exact conversation your child desperately needs to have. Cinema has a unique, almost magical power to bypass those stubborn emotional walls, creating a shared experience where big life questions can be explored safely from the comfort of your own living room sofa. Imagine sending a boy to an elite, hyper-competitive boarding school where every single minute of his life is mapped out by overbearing parents and rigid traditions. Welcome to the world of Dead Poets Society, released in 1989 in the United States. Starring the unbelievable Robin Williams alongside young talents Ethan Hawke and Robert Sean Leonard, this masterpiece hits you right in the gut. We've all been there, feeling like we're trapped in a mold someone else created for us. You work 40 hours a week, you follow the rules, and suddenly you look in the mirror and wonder, is this actually my life, or am I just executing someone else's plan? That is precisely what these boys are facing at Welton Academy. They are groomed to be doctors, lawyers, and bankers, taught to memorize facts, analyze poetry with mathematical formulas, and conform without ever feeling a single authentic emotion. Enter John Keating, an unconventional English teacher who does something radical. He doesn't just teach literature, he tears up the textbook, quite literally. He tells these kids to stand on their desks, to look at the world from a completely different perspective, and to seize the day carpe diem before time slips through their fingers. The tension in this school is suffocating, as strict discipline and generational expectations collide with the sudden, thrilling spark of individual thought. You watch these young men secretly revive an underground club, sneaking out into the dark, misty woods just to read poetry and dare to dream of something greater. But rebellion always comes with a cost when the establishment fights back with full force. Will they fold under the immense pressure of parental expectation, or will they find the courage to speak with their own voice? Have you ever felt like you had to sacrifice your real passion just to make someone else proud? Tell me in the comments below, because I know so many of us carry that quiet regret. When the film ends, sit down with your teen and simply ask them, which moment touched you the deepest, and why? While some kids feel squeezed by high expectations, others feel utterly trapped by their environment, believing they are destined for nothing because of where they were born. Take a ride back to 1957 in a tiny, dust-covered coal mining town named Coalwood, West Virginia. This is the world of October Sky, a magnificent American drama released in 1999, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Chris Cooper, and Laura Dern. If you've ever felt stuck in a career rut, grinding away at a job just to pay the bills while feeling like your true potential is wasting away, this story will resonate with your very soul. Homer Hickam is a teenager whose entire future is already written in stone by his surroundings. In his town, you either win a high school football scholarship or you go down into the dark, dangerous, soot-filled coal mines just like your father and his father before him. That's it. There are no other doors open to kids from Coalwood. But then, one crisp autumn night, Homer looks up at the clear night sky and sees Sputnik, the world's first man-made satellite, streaking silently across the stars. A tiny, glowing light in the infinite blackness of space. In that exact second, something ignites inside him. He doesn't know the first thing about physics, chemistry, or complex math, but he knows with absolute certainty that he wants to build rockets. The path ahead is an absolute nightmare of exploded prototypes, dangerous mishaps, furious arguments with a stern father who thinks dreaming is a foolish, dangerous waste of time, and a whole community that scoffs at the very idea of a miner's son reaching for the stars. Yet, with the guidance of an inspiring, dedicated teacher and 3 quirky, outcast friends, Homer keeps building, failing, learning, and rebuilding. It is a breathtaking story about how you don't need to have your entire life figured out from day one. Sometimes, you just need to notice that one small thing that makes your eyes light up and take a single, terrifying step forward into the unknown. How often do we let the fear of where we start prevent us from trying something new? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Afterward, ask your teenager, is there something you're curious about, even if you have no idea where it might lead? That fear of taking a step forward, of stepping out into the unknown, often isn't about a lack of raw talent. It's about a deep, paralyzing, often invisible fear of failure and emotional exposure. Look at Good Will Hunting, the extraordinary 1997 American film directed by Gus Van Sant, starring Matt Damon, Robin Williams, Ben Affleck, and Stellan Skarsgård. We all know people, maybe we see one in the mirror every morning, who are insanely gifted, capable, and smart, yet constantly self-sabotage their own success. We stay in safe, dead-end routines because if we don't try, we can't fail. If we don't open up, we can't get hurt. Will Hunting is a 20-year-old janitor at the prestigious Massachusetts Institute of Technology. He hangs out with his loyal working-class friends in South Boston, gets into senseless bar fights, and sweeps floors after hours. But secretly, he is an absolute mathematical genius who can solve complex, legendary equations on hallway blackboards that leave top university professors completely stumped. Will has an unbelievable mind, but his heart is shielded behind thick, impenetrable armor built from severe childhood trauma, neglect, and a deep-seated fear of abandonment. When he gets into legal trouble after a street brawl, he is given a choice: serve jail time or undergo therapy sessions with Dr. Sean McGuire. What unfolds between them is not a neat, polished clinical session. It is a fierce, raw, deeply emotional chess match between 2 broken souls. Sean doesn't let Will hide behind his brilliant defense mechanisms, encyclopedic knowledge, or witty deflective jokes. He forces him to confront the terrifying reality that his intellectual arrogance is just a wall hiding a terrified kid who believes he isn't worthy of love or success. The psychological suspense in their sessions is so thick you can barely breathe. Will wants a better life, but to get it, he has to risk being vulnerable, risk opening up, and risk getting hurt by the world. Isn't that the hardest thing any of us ever have to do? Have you ever backed away from an amazing opportunity simply because you were terrified of not being good enough? Share your story in the comments. And when the movie finishes, gently ask your teen, is there something you secretly want to try, but fear is holding you back? Fear doesn't just build walls around our ambitions, it builds walls between us and the people around us, making us feel completely isolated even when we are standing in a crowded room. That brings us straight to a timeless masterpiece that captures the agonizing experience of feeling like an outsider, The Breakfast Club, released in the United States in 1985, written and directed by John Hughes, and starring Judd Nelson, Molly Ringwald, Emilio Estevez, Ali Sheedy, and Anthony Michael Hall. Think about your daily life for a moment. We put on protective armor every single day. We play the reliable employee, the stern parent, the cheerful neighbor, hiding our anxieties, our exhaustion, and our deepest insecurities behind a carefully crafted public mask. Teenagers do this at an extreme level as they try to survive the harsh social hierarchy of high school. On a cold Saturday morning, 5 high school students report for an all-day detention in their school library. They couldn't be more different: the athlete, the princess, the brain, the criminal, and the basket case. They enter the room hating each other, firmly locked inside their respective social cliques, prejudices, and stereotypes. They expect 8 agonizing hours of boring silence under the watchful eye of a tyrannical vice principal who views them only as troublemakers. But as the hours slowly drag on and authority drops its guard, the walls begin to crumble in profound ways. What starts as hostile banter and petty arguments gradually shifts into raw, unfiltered honesty. They begin to realize that the popular girl feels suffocated by peer pressure and superficial friendships. The star athlete is crushed by his father's relentless demands for perfection. The brain is driven to despair by academic failure. And the outcast is desperately lonely. Behind their radically different exteriors, they are all bleeding from the exact same emotional wounds. It is a brilliant, claustrophobic drama that proves real human connection only happens when we are brave enough to take off the mask and show people who we truly are. Have you ever realized that someone you thought had a perfect, envy-worthy life was actually fighting a massive battle behind closed doors? Tell me about a time your perspective on someone completely shifted in the comments. Once the credits roll, ask your kid, which character did you see a piece of yourself in, and why? Sometimes, though, the isolation isn't just internal, it's forced upon us by brutal life circumstances that make us feel entirely powerless and defeated. When life hits you with relentless waves of financial and personal hardship, it is so easy to believe that one person cannot possibly change their destiny. That is why you need to watch The Pursuit of Happyness, a deeply moving 2006 American biographical drama starring Will Smith alongside his real-life son, Jaden Smith. As adults managing monthly bills, mortgages, career stability, and family responsibilities, the economic terror portrayed in this movie hits way too close to home. Chris Gardner is a struggling salesman in 1980s San Francisco, trying to sell expensive portable medical scanners that doctors and hospitals simply don't want to buy. As his financial situation deteriorates rapidly, his stressed wife leaves, he loses his apartment, and he finds himself evicted and out on the street with his young, innocent son. They end up sleeping in filthy subway bathrooms, homeless shelters, and cramped transit spaces, with Chris constantly hiding the heartbreaking reality from the little boy by turning their desperate night-to-night survival into an imaginative game to protect his childhood innocence. Yet, amid this unimaginable despair and humiliation, Chris lands a highly competitive, unpaid internship at a prestigious stock brokerage firm. He is competing against dozens of younger, well-off candidates who don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from. Chris works relentlessly all day without pay, and then literally runs through the streets at night holding his son's hand just to secure a spot in a shelter line so his child has a safe roof over his head for the night. The emotional weight of this film is staggering and deeply profound. It isn't a magical fairy tale about quick luck or overnight success. It is a brutal, deeply inspiring examination of sheer determination, unyielding work ethic, human dignity, and refusing to let your current circumstances define your ultimate destination. It features one of the most powerful scenes in cinema history, where a father teaches his son that when people tell you that you can't do something, it's only because they can't do it themselves, and if you have a dream, you have to protect it. Have you ever faced a moment where everything fell apart around you, but you found a well of strength inside yourself that you didn't know existed? I would love to read your inspiring stories in the comments section below. When the screen fades to black, ask your teenager, what kept Chris going when everything seemed completely hopeless, and do you see that same quiet strength inside yourself? When we look at our kids staring at the ceiling, feeling lost, overwhelmed, or terrified of what lies ahead in an uncertain world, it is easy to forget that we once laid on our beds feeling the exact same way. We forget how big the world felt, how heavy expectations weighed on our shoulders, and how terrifying the transition into adulthood truly was. Growing up isn't a smooth, linear path lined with clear signposts. It is a messy, confusing, emotional, and often terrifying process of figuring out who you are when the safe, predictable boundaries of childhood start to dissolve. We can't live their lives for them, we can't shield them from every bump in the road, and we certainly can't solve all their doubts with a single quick, well-intentioned conversation over dinner. But we can offer them a mirror through cinema. These 5 incredible, timeless stories aren't just movies to pass the time on a lazy August evening, they are doorways to deep connection. They show our children that it is completely okay not to have all the answers right now, that failure is not the end of the road but a stepping stone, that vulnerability is true strength, and that their current situation is just a single chapter in a long, Beautiful book yet to be written. So tonight, skip the usual lectures, put away the distracting smartphones, and lower your expectations for immediate breakthroughs. Grab a big bowl of popcorn, sit down together on the couch, press play on one of these classics, and just listen when the credits roll. You might be surprised by the incredible, transformational conversation that follows.